Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Andrew Warren, and in today's video, we're going to be covering Tesla stock once again and talking about the topic of could we be seeing another pullback for Tesla sometime soon? So this has been a hot topic recently, and we are starting to see the share price get a little bit cheaper for Tesla as people continue to sell off. And of course, there are some panic sellers right now, with this week being pretty far into the red at around minus 12%. And on Friday, we did have a green day in the normal market hours, but in the after hours, it was at minus 6.29%. And a lot of that was due to the fact that there were some S&P 500 inclusion announcements for companies known as Catalent, Etsy, and Teradyne. However, Tesla, although it was rumored to be included on Friday, it was not one of those announced. So I think a lot of investors were simply just relying too much on this announcement, including Tesla. And like I mentioned in previous videos, S&P 500 inclusion can happen at any time for a company, and Friday is not the only day that it's possible for inclusion for Tesla. And so regarding the topic of if we could see more pullbacks happening in the upcoming week, a lot of that just simply revolves around whether Tesla gets included in the S&P 500 in my opinion. And I almost forgot to mention this, but as always, if you all do enjoy the Tesla videos, please make sure to smash that like button. It really does help me out. But like I said, I really think the upcoming week and whether we could actually see more of a pullback, of course it does depend on what the general stock market is looking like. Of course, as we know with Thursday and Friday, it seems like there's just a general downtrend in the stock market right now. So of course, if there is just a general downtrend once again for the stock market next week, that will have a negative effect on Tesla most likely, and it will probably drop a little bit more than these usual ones like NASDAQ and VOO. But on top of that as well, I think a lot of people and investors are really counting on S&P 500 inclusion happening next week for Tesla. And so as with Friday, if it doesn't get announced on Tuesday or sometime next week, I think investors will be disappointed and we will likely have some people panic selling just like with Friday, because there have been a lot of people entering positions in on Tesla just because they wanted to make some short-term quick money, easy gains. And so they based a lot of that on the fact that S&P 500 inclusion was likely to happen sometime soon, and also the fact that Battery Day is on September 22nd. So basically the mindset of these short-term traders and investors was to simply just buy some Tesla stock before these two events happen sometime this month. Keep in mind, S&P 500 is not guaranteed to happen. However, it does seem likely that Battery Day is not going to be canceled on September 22nd. So a lot of these investors just wanted a short-term play on Tesla, so they bought it a little bit before the stock split, and they bought it a little bit before S&P 500 inclusion and the Battery Day. And so they did this because they thought it would be some easy short-term money, and by the time that Battery Day happens, they thought they could just sell off, get some really easy gains, and then try to time the market after Tesla hits a lower point once it starts to pull a little bit farther back after Battery Day. And so this is why a lot of people say don't try to time the market, because when you end up trying to time the market, it almost always ends in a hard lesson of people learning pretty much why you don't want to try to time the market. And so that's kind of what we're seeing with Tesla right now. We are seeing a pullback between now and Battery Day, and I do believe that as we start to get a little bit closer to Battery Day, that we could see a little bit of a build-up in hype and maybe the share price increasing a little bit as we get closer and closer to that big date. But in the meantime, between now and then, really a lot of people are relying on S&P 500 inclusion, and so the longer that we go without that announcement, the more impatient that people get, and the more they start to get confused about whether they should hold on to the stock or whether they should just go ahead and sell because they're afraid of a future pullback because they just can't stomach the losses. So this is what's happening right now, especially with the most recent stock split. Tesla at one point just seemed unbeatable at the point where it was just a continuous incline from like this point at August 11th all the way up to this point at August 31st. So basically 20 days straight of nothing but growth for Tesla. So a lot of people found it hard to resist just riding on this train upwards. And so especially when you had a lot of people buying Tesla on August 31st and then immediately the next day they're already down in the negative, especially for those investors that aren't long-term investors or simply just don't have a lot of experience with losing some money in the market or unrealized losses in the market. It's really going to be difficult for them to hold as this continues to pull back, and if it does so. And so honestly, like I said, just regarding whether we could see a pullback soon, I think a lot of this does rely on whether we see S&P 500 inclusion happen for Tesla next week. And I've already done a previous video about this topic, basically discussing expressing why I don't really care whether or not the S&P 500 includes Tesla. I mean, it's their loss at this point in my opinion, but I think this could present itself a buying opportunity if they choose to not make an announcement next week on Tuesday, because I do think a lot of people are relying on that date especially. And so the more that time goes on without this announcement, especially given the fact that so many short-term traders are relying on this event for them to gain some short-term money, the longer that we wait without that happening, then that means it's likely that some people just will be too impatient and will end up selling off, and that sell-off could kind of lead to a snowball effect like we've seen recently over these past few days, where when it's a really big red day like minus 15% on Thursday, then it starts to get other people panicking as well that normally might not panic as much as the first people that sell off. But once you start seeing those big losses, a lot of people just cannot stomach that, and that's really where I like to get in the waters and start picking up all these shares that people are just throwing out for these cheap prices. So that's where I look for my opportunities, and honestly, to keep it real with you all, I would almost prefer S&P 500 inclusion to not be announced next week, because if that isn't announced, then I think there's going to be a lot of shares being offered up at cheap prices because of so many people panic selling, so many people selling based off of the fact that this wasn't announced, and then like I said, that leads to a snowball effect. So there could be a lot of opportunities next week, and I already have plans to sell some things on Tuesday, and then hopefully somehow get some money into my Robinhood account in case I see some opportunities with Tesla stock. And so if we do see another pullback or sell-off next week, then it's really just all about people not having that long-term vision. The people that understand that these are just little small blips on the radar or road bumps, the people that understand that it's important to just weather through the storm and maintain that long-term vision, those are the people that are going to come out on top, because they see a lot of unrealistic overreactions like we saw on Friday. It was unrealistic for people to have the expectation that it was pretty much guaranteed that Tesla would be included on that date, even though it was just a rumor. It wasn't set in stone that this was going to happen on Friday. It's not like they announced something beforehand and then all of a sudden they took it back and said, okay, we're not doing this. Now, in that case, I could understand such a negative reaction, like with minus 6% or whatever, but just the fact that a lot of people sold Tesla stock, and especially panic sold it, just based off of the fact that it wasn't announced on Friday, that just tells me that a lot of people are a little bit impatient right now. And so we do need a pullback at this point if people are overreacting this much to just such small events, in my opinion. So like I said, I think a pullback is due for Tesla. Maybe not due, but necessary for the long-term investors to pick up more shares from people that are likely going to panic sell on any small negative event. And I think what people also need to realize is that pullbacks are healthy for a company. Pullbacks prevent bubbles from happening. And I've said it previously, I don't think Tesla is a bubble. I don't think Tesla is comparable to Bitcoin. Obviously, Tesla does have a lot of hype in it, and it does attract some of these investors that aren't interested in any other stocks, but there's reasoning behind that. So I think this is a different situation, but I do understand there are people getting into Tesla stock that don't fully understand it. That is something that I think we can all agree on, whether we love Tesla or not. But that's why pullbacks are so healthy. You have people like that investing in pretty much every type of stock. You've had that in Amazon stock, you have that in Apple stock. There's always going to be investors that don't fully understand a company but invest in it anyways. That's just one of those sections of the investing community that's just always going to be there, in my opinion. So I think pullbacks are healthy, and I would honestly love to see it at this point because I want to see Tesla freeing up some buying opportunities. And also, like I said, there was that negative reaction on Friday for this lack of S&P 500 inclusion announcement, and then there was also an unrealistic negative reaction on Tuesday as well when there was a 1% dilution announced where they had like a $5 billion share offering. And I just thought that was a pure example right there that a lot of people that are investing in Tesla don't really understand what's going on, because that $5 billion offering, of course, for some companies that won't utilize that money in the best way possible, yes, that could be viewed as a bad thing. But with Tesla, where they are early in its stages of growth and continuing to grow at an exponential rate, then that $5 billion is really useful for them in terms of creating more Gigafactories, scaling up production. The more production means more revenue for Tesla. It also means more data for for Tesla as they have more cars on the road, gathering data for the full self-driving, training that neural net, and therefore advancing Tesla's data lead and helping them possibly become the first company to master full self-driving. So this is all contributing to the company in a larger grand scale. And I think some investors are simply just looking at things in terms of small scale and saying, okay, well, technically my shares are going to be worth less now because there's more being offered on the market, in which I see what people are saying. But when you really think about how much that $5 billion offering can contribute to the company and therefore grow your share value in the future because of the company scaling and being more successful than other companies, then I think that's where it really starts to change the perspective. And so when you have a company that is likely one of the best companies in the world to utilize $5 billion, then you really start to take on a different perspective compared to if you gave $5 billion to Nikola or $5 billion to another company that won't utilize it as well, and it's simply just a cash out. So right now, there does seem to be a lot of overreaction in the market with Tesla, so that in itself does get me a little excited in the sense that I think we could see a pretty big pullback sometime next week if we don't see S&P 500 inclusion. However, short term is always very unpredictable. That's why a lot of investors don't even try to predict the short term. I don't even usually try to predict the short term, but I still like to explore some topics and potential possibilities. So that's why I do these videos. It's untelling what will happen next week, whether S&P 500 inclusion will be announced, or if Tesla just ends up having a really bullish week. We never know until it happens. I don't have my crystal ball, but regardless, it's still kind of fun to explore these topics and just come up with some possible things that might happen over this next month or so. So I just wanted to share my thoughts with you all. I am looking for some buying opportunities right now, and I will be buying more Tesla stock this month. So just keep on the lookout for that. I'll let you all know when I do buy Tesla stock. But please make sure to smash that like button if you all enjoyed this video. And also, feel free to sign up to Robinhood and Webull in the description below. If you sign up with my referral link, you'll get some free stocks. And especially with Webull right now, you'll get 2 free stocks if you use my link and deposit $100 into your account. And keep in mind, you can take that $100 right back out after you get your free stocks. So it's basically just free money. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.